Hello again, it's Noob, and today we get to look at a really big lockpick set from Lockpick Pros. This is a 26 pick lockpick set. Well, technically not. It's actually a 16 pick set with an extra 10 pick expansion on the side. And yes, you can buy these two things separately, and it comes with 6 double-ended like Z-wrench style turning tools and a case. For full disclosure, this was sent to me by Lockpick Pros for the purposes of this review and to keep. It's not a paid review, all thoughts of my own. But I also want to say that I previously did a review on some of these carbon fibre handled lockpicks, the Gen 1 version. So this is the Gen 2 version from Lockpick Pros. This is the Gen 1 version from Lockpick Pros. And they sent me this set months and months ago now. And I sort of had some mixed feelings about this set. I thought the steel was very good. I liked the carbon fibre handles, but there was a few things I wasn't overly impressed with. One, the thickness of the shanks. I mean, just look at how thick some of these shanks are. The size of the amplitude of some of the peaks in the wave rakes. I felt that the handles were nice. I liked the carbon fibre, but it was a little bit thin. I felt that the case was sort of adequate, but a little over shiny and cheap feeling. And some of the pick profiles were a tiny bit over tumbled, and I don't know, I felt that it was okay, but not great. So Lockpick Pros reached back out to me and said, do you know what, thanks for the feedback. Feedback from myself and other reviewers. They actually tried to take that on board and develop a Gen 2 version of these carbon fibre handled lockpicks. And if you're curious, they won't tell me exactly what the steel is, but they say that it's a 301 stainless steel rated above full hard and equivalent to a high yield 301 stainless steel. I can't confirm what the steel is. I have no way to do that, but I will say that the steel is strong. It's a good steel from my perspective in terms of how it felt when I've been using them to pick locks. But what improvements have they made? Well, they have definitely thinned down the shanks. You can see that there's a nice taper on here. They have increased the thickness of the handles to 1 millimeter. So let's grab one of these old ones and you'll see there the difference. And I would say the scales are almost twice as thick, and that actually really improves the comfort. Here is a sort of short hook from the previous set. You see how much they've thinned down the shank heights, which is again a really big improvement. They've actually increased the length of the handles just by a little bit as well, which again I really appreciate. The other ones were a tiny bit short as well. So far so good. And I will get into what you get in each of the profiles, but I do want to point out that in the first set, these were the style of the rakes, like that, and these are whoppers. But just compare that to, say, one of the newer ones, and that is much more to scale to what you would actually want or need in a lock. I do want to just say that straight out of the pack, if you like, the box, we're looking at a very different set of lockpicks. Also, and I know we're not really here for the case, but just look at the difference. One is sort of this sort of shiny carbon fibre style case. Like I said, adequate, but maybe not my favourite. This one has got such a nice sort of matte finish. Well, more like a satin finish. Still got the magnetic clasp on there. And everything about this is just better. It is just a much nicer pick case. Like I said, I know people aren't really into the cases, but I think you can see straight away that there's a night and day difference between this new case and the old case. And I did just want to show you how those 16 picks do fit into the case quite nicely and snugly. Unfortunately, you won't be able to put these extra ones inside this case. You'd probably have to order a separate case if you wanted to do that. So what do we get? Well, let's look at these first 16 picks here. This is one of the options that I think they sell. They sell various options with cases, without cases, with the expansion, without the expansion. I'll leave a link below for you to go check out on your own. But we get things like, and yeah, they have got on here the LP yeah, it does look like a bit of an LD, but you can see there's a little stalk there on that P. And they're numbered as well. There's also a tiny, not very clear, I have to admit, but a little bit of an etch there as well. So you can see there's a 1 on the shank there and 1 on the handle. So you get a small half diamond, which looks quite nice. Maybe a little bit over tumbled. It's not particularly sharp. We have a club pick here, which I'm not really sure what to do with that one. Nice snowman pick. These are good for raking your wafer locks. A curve pick like a reach pick or a spoon hook, whichever way you want to put them. Some people really like these. We have a couple of hooks here. We have a medium and a short hook. I think that the tip profiles are a little broad, but you can also see you've got those little micro laser etch marks on there, which are, I think, designed for a right-handed. They're not on both sides. It's more like for a right-handed picker who likes to pick locks pin up. We've got a bunch of rakes next. So we have a double, triple, quad and quint rake. And if you notice, and I think this is by design, if you look at the tips here, you'll see that the tips of the rakes are slightly extended to provide a almost like a short hook on one side. So if you do some hybrid picking, you sort of rake the lock. I guess you could work either way. You can use the tip much better for picking the remaining pins, and I might give that a go if I can on a lock in a second. But again, a lot thinner shanks, which is nice and appreciated. 2 very deep hooks, a deep thin and a deep. I might say maybe a little bit too deep, but these are very deep hooks, and sometimes you need a deep hook, so what's not to like, I guess. Then we have a snake rake and a city rake. Quite a long city rake, then quite a extended snake rake profile, actually. What they call a cutout, but I'd say it's a very lightly notched hook. Do we can see that there? And a short flat hook. Going on to the expansion picks now. What do we have? We have 3 more rakes, and these are just slightly lower in terms of amplitude. So they're not thinner shanked, but they are lower in their amplitude. So the height between the bottom and the tops of the peaks, which isn't too bad. Quite good for very small locks, like luggage locks and things. I find these ones are you don't use them a lot, but can be useful. We have, I'm going to look at 20, 21 and 22 all together because they are sort of similar. I'm not sure why they're called staff pick SOF short or double tap, but these picks all have sort of a second, well, maybe not 21, but you can see where I'm going with this, all have like a second peak there. There is another set that has this kind of profile, and it's designed for, I guess, zipping locks open. Never found needed a specific pick to do that. So, and again, these have 2 of these have these little micro etchings on there for pin positioning. Nice thin shanks, but I'm not sure that those profiles are necessarily for me. Then we get into the good stuff. So we have, again, this is slightly dipped down, but it's more like a medium hook. We've got a nice, it says micro short hook. I don't mind that, actually. I like really, really short hooks, especially for very small little padlocks. We have a very thin medium hook and a very thin, so you see how thin these shanks and the tips of these picks are, sort of a medium and a deep hook here. So a real range of stuff. In terms of the turning tools then, what do we have here? We have a load of stuff. We've got a couple of 1.2mm thick tools, and the difference between these two is the thickness of the actual tips here. So this is a 3.2 and a 2.8mm sort of, can we just say shank height for the sake of it? Turning tools, double-ended, and these are 1.2mm in thickness. Then we got another 1.2 with a 3.4mm thickness. This is, I guess, like a bottom keyway turner, but you could use it as a dimple lock turner as well. Then we got a thinner 0.8mm pry bar, which is 2.8mm at the end. another 0.8 with a 3.2, and another 0.8 with a 3.4. So we've got basically 1.2 millimeter and 0.8 millimeter turning tools with different heights of bottom of the keyway turner at the other end. So that's what we've got there. Now I like to do some demos of lockpicking using the picks and then give my conclusions, but I'm not going to get through every one of these picks as a demo. 26 different locks would be, well, that would make the video very, very long. So I'm just going to choose a few of my sort of favorite profiles or most commonly used profiles, and then I should be able to give you some decent conclusions at the end. So first up, I thought I'd give the triple peak a go. I've got an ABUS 64 Ti 50 here. And I could go bottom of the keyway like that, I guess, with this 1.2mm bar with a 2.8mm tip. Yeah, I think that feels sort of comfortable enough. Let's give this a rake and see what we can get. So I'm just going to give this a light tension. I've got the triple peak in here. I'm just going to give that a nice light rake like this. And if it feels, oh, we got it. Yeah, perfect, nice. I've got a quad rake here for a 6-pin Euro with some spool pins in. Just going to go in and see if I can't sort of give this a little tickle open. Ah, we've got that open, there we go. Maybe zipper lock with a double rake. There we go. We've got a very cute small little padlock here, but don't be fooled. It's got security pins, even if there's only 4 pins in the whole lock, and the bitting is quite extreme for such a tight keyway, so it's quite a challenge for these lock picks. So I'm going to try this short hook and see if I can't get this lock, which is a little bit tight, I have to say. But pin 1's binding. Give that a little click. Feels good. A little click on 4. Back to 1. Into a full set. Really deep full set. Wow. So we've got to go under the pins and see what's binding. Might be 4 again at the back. Yeah, we got it. And we got the open. Look at that. These picks are 0.5mm in thickness, which is great for getting all the way up the inside of a keyway without rubbing against the warding on these American style keyways, and also thin enough to navigate the warding on those European style locks. So what have I got here? I've got the 1.2mm turning tool, top of the keyway pry bar like that. I'm going to go in here and just see what I can't pick. So I love this lock, it's such a good lock to pick. It's just a true value lock, but it's got some lovely spool pins in and great feedback. It's a real joy to pick. Not sponsored by True Value, don't even have one in the UK. And I'm just going to find any of these pins with some counter rotation like this. So we're on the spool pins now, and we've got the open. Lovely. Now I think I said I want to try some hybrid picking using the tip of these rakes as a hook. So the idea with hybrid picking is I'll try to get this into a false set. So I'll go in with a the rake side like this, and this is the quad short, and we got into a false set. Now I'm going to try and go in like this and try to use a tip, which is here, like a short hook, and just try to find any pins which feel like they give me some counter rotation like this, and try to sort of set them out, and we got the open. Well, that worked really well. Lastly, I got to try one of these super deep hooks on an American lock 1100 series. Yeah, well, top keyway turner works really well. It should be okay. This is just very deep hook. I mean, it's already touching the tips of these pins, so on pin 6 at the 5 at the back. Actually, it's only a 5-pin American lock. That feels good. Anything on 4? Little counter rotation there. Anything on 3, 2s here, I think. No, it's 1. Little click on 1. Oh, into sort of a deeper false set. Let's go back to 5. A bit of counter rotation there, but into a good position. Pin 3, nothing. Oh, tiny click on 3. This is 2 now. And oh, we are open. Lovely. Well, there you go. I had a hard time knowing when to stop because I couldn't do all 26 profiles for a demo. And no doubt I've missed out using the one you really wanted to see me use. So apologies if that is the case. There just isn't enough sort of time in the day to do a demo on all of these. Where do I even start with conclusions? Let's start with splitting these apart so you can see that this is the core version 2 set. You can buy it, I think, with a case, without a case, and you can buy the expansion set, the 1726, separately if you wish. So I like to do things I like first, because I think that's nice and positive. So things I like, let's just grab a hook at random. So I like the fact that the scales are now 1mm. They are nice, they're really firm, they convey feedback really well, and the extra length just means they sit in the hand a lot nicer than the version 1s, definitely. I like the fact that the shanks are a lot thinner. That is a really, really big improvement, and I'm so grateful they did that, because it shows that they were listening, which is really good. So yeah, just the way that the picks are sort of made in terms of the finish, the steel, all really nice. If I get one of these like peaked rakes here, you can see that the tumbling is all really nice. There's no sharp edges on anything. As I said earlier, I don't know what the steel is, but it's strong. You know, it's flexible because it's 0.5mm, which is 20 thousandths of an inch or thereabouts, somewhere between 19 and 20 thousandths of an inch. But it is strong stuff. I did some testing on all of the profiles. Well, I might miss one or two out pre-video, in my pre-video testing, to see if they hold up. But they seem to hold their shape really, really well. So again, that's really nice. So they are well tumbled. They have longer handles. They've got thicker handles. You either do or do not like the real carbon fiber. I quite like it. You might not. And it's a pro and a con, because it's a matter of taste whether you like the writing on both sides here. I don't really mind either way, but you may have a preference. So I can't really say it's a pro or a con. It's a matter of personal taste. I'm not sure how durable this is, but it seems to have held up quite well with all my handling and putting it out of the case and stuff. So those are the things I like. Other things I do quite like is there are amongst these some quite nice profiles. So I quite like pretty much all of these ones here, even the really deep hooks. I'm not saying I'd use them all the time, but I really like all of these ones, maybe that short flat as well, and this snowman in particular. These ones are good. I'm not so keen on these profiles, but I'll come on to the profiles I'm not so keen on a bit later. But yeah, these aren't bad profiles. This is the core set. In the sort of other side, I like the micro short, and I like the rakes again. I think they're really nice. These sort of spoon hooks and double peak hooks, they're just not really for me. And the micro deep and micro medium aren't bad, so somewhere in the middle. But they, so I guess the shaping of them is just that tiny bit off for me. Other things I like before I go on to things I'm not so keen on. I like the case. I think it's actually quite a nice case. You know, for a carbon fiber look case, I think they made a big improvement on this, and it does hold very tightly, but it does hold all 16 of these picks and the 6 turning tools. And I suppose I have to say that the turning tools are absolutely fine. They're really adequate. Is there enough? No. Is there ever enough? No. But they're a good start. They're perfectly fine. Nice to have maybe a couple more thicknesses here. I like a 1mm and a 1.3mm would be nice, but I'm not really complaining about these. They're well done. I quite like these. They're perfectly nice. So on to the things I'm not so keen on. Some of the profiles just aren't quite right for me. So some of them are just not my preference. So things like the sort of spoon hooks and these sort of double peaked hooks, which, you know, they do zip locks and things, and you can use them as hooks. They're just not my personal preference. You know, if you like that style of sort of spoon and double peaked hooks, then these might be for you. This is more of a personal preference thing. There are some things which are not quite a matter of taste. Things like the club hook, I just don't know what to do with it. I mean, you could use it, I guess, as a dimple pick, or a pick for some of those cab style keyways, but it's very, very flexible, and I just found that it didn't really work out for me. I normally love half diamonds, but this is just a little bit over tumbled. It's erring on the side of almost like a ball profile at the end. Great for, raking some locks. I'm not going to deny that, but I do like it a little bit sharper, so I use it more as a hook. There are a couple of other things, which is like these hooks are perfectly fine. For example, this medium and short hook, but they are quite broad tipped. Not unusable, but noticeably broad tipped. And in some locks, where you just need a finer tip to work its way up through the warding, like literally through the drill holes in the warding, they can be a little bit broad. Not terrible. There are some profiles which just aren't for me. I found that this snake rake was, look, there's always going to be a lock that this will open, but that is way too sort of long a shape for a snake rake. At least it's not the snake rake profile I'm used to. And I'm not a big fan of sort of deep notched hooks. They're okay, they have their place, but in terms of things I like, not my favourite. The only other thing I would say is that there is a little bit, I would say that they're well tumbled, but maybe a little bit over tumbled. The other thing I'm not so keen on is the angle of these micro deeps and micro medium hooks. If you look at the sort of sweep, or the swoop, if you like, of this medium hook, it has a sort of a more gentle angle, while these ones are almost at right angles. There are instances where a right angle hook is actually very, very useful, but it's actually moderately rare, I find, to need a right angled hook. And I find that inside the lock, it just doesn't feel as intuitive to pick with. So I wish that these were exactly the same thickness and tips and everything, but just at a slight angle rather than at a 90-degree angle. That would have been my preference as well. The little micro markings are actually quite nice. I don't mind having them on the picks. They are very, very slight, and you do need good eyesight to see them. They do work, but they only really, if you were picking pins down, you wouldn't be able to see them if you were right-handed, or if you were picking pins up with your left hand, you won't be able to see those markings. So markings on both sides would be quite good. So I think that the profiles are somewhat hit and miss. So I'll try to do the too long didn't read, which is I like the steel, I like the handles, I like the handle length. I think that 0.5mm thickness is really good. There are some good profiles amongst all of these, and they're well tumbled. If on some occasions they're a little bit over tumbled. There are some picks which may just not be to your taste, but there are also some picks which are just maybe not quite the shape that they should be, and with a little bit of extra work, especially maybe thinning things like this medium hook down a little bit, these picks would be a whole lot better again. Overall, I think that the base set is pretty good. I wish that, like I said, the medium and short hooks are maybe a little bit thinner in this set. That would make this set like really pop, but it's not a bad little collection, especially with the case, especially with the turning tools. It's not a bad little set now. I would say that they are really getting there. Not 100% perfect, but certainly getting there. I do think that these extra slightly thinner profile picks are definitely optional. I don't think there's much here that you would really miss. Maybe this micro short hook I think would be nice to have over in this set, but the other rakes they're extra, they're perfectly good, and these sort of hook and spoon hook profiles here are really a matter of taste. So I think that if you got this, you wouldn't necessarily need this, but if there are profiles in here you particularly like, then there's nothing wrong with these either. Like I said, made of the same steel, they're well made, they've got those nice handles on. So, I mean, I have to give some credit, I really do. Whilst I do have some mixed feelings about this set in general, Lockpick Pros have done a very good job at listening to criticisms, and if this is the direction they're going, I think that they've got a set which is very usable and quite good now. If they get to a version 3 and do a little bit more work with some of the shaping of these profiles, I think they'll be onto a real winner. Ah yes, I forgot to mention the price, and of course this is the price at the time of recording. Prices will change, so will exchange rates. It doesn't include shipping and local taxes and import duties and all those kind of things. But the list price on the website currently for this set, which is the carbon fibre version 2 set plus the expansion plus the case, comes in at 134 UK pounds and 85 pence, which is around 181 US dollars or thereabouts. But I'd love to know your comments down below. What do you think of these? Do you think there's been a big improvement? Do you like the fact that a lockpick manufacturer is listening to criticism even if they don't get it 100% right? Do you like the carbon fibre handles? Do you like the improvements they've made? Do you like the fact they're 0.5 millimeters? Anything you have in terms of comments, do put them down below. It seems to be that lockpick pros are listening, so it might be helpful if you like this style of pick to give them some feedback. I'd really like to know your thoughts, so yeah, put some comments down below. I do read them all and reply to as many as I can. If you like this video, want to see more content like this, hit that like, consider subscribing, smash that notification bell to be notified next time I upload content. Otherwise, stay safe, happy picking, and I'll see you all next time.